All right, everyone. Thank you again. And it's 7 a.m. And you know what time it is? Time for newspaper review. As always, we don't do this alone or by ourselves. So we have our guest gentlemen of the press who are seated here already. Good morning, Iyobosa Simon Reef.
Good morning.
Good morning. To have you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right, so starting off with the papers, very interesting to look at what the headlines have this morning. And we'll be checking out the front page of This Nigeria and the suspected terror leader al-Banawi, others for absence in court. Page 1.
And now to Leadership newspaper. Let's see what it's leading with this morning. It's also talking about the trends on the space in the hard news, really. And it says CBN to curb POS fraud, orders geo-tagging of devices. And the big one there is varsity lecturers protest across campuses. 240 colleagues die yearly over poor living conditions, according to Fulafia Asu chair on page 4 of Leadership.
Now to the Nigerian News Direct, we have pay our withheld salaries, not loans. ASU protest sweeps varsities nationwide.
And then we go over to Nigerian News Direct. It says, pay our withheld salaries, not loans. ASU protest sweeps varsities nationwide. One of looming strike over withheld salaries, failed agreement.
And now to the daily assets, we have ASU stages nationwide protest over unpaid salaries, stalled 2009 agreement.
And let's now see what the National Star leads with. It says, varsities risk shutdown as ASU threatens mother of all strikes, rejects federal government tertiary institution loan scheme, calls it Greek gift. And you find that on page 2 of the paper.
And now to the Daily Monitor, we are not bothered by PDP's decision to zone 2027 presidency to South. That's from the ADC.
And now to Nigerian pilot, it says proceeds of crime. Federal government secures final forfeiture of 5 billion naira worth of shares linked to ex-army director. Lagos High Court ordered final forfeiture of 245 million shares worth over 5 billion naira. And then we have two more riders there.
All right, now to the Daily Times. We have NSA hands over 128 rescued kidnapped victims to Zamfara government.
And let's look at what the People's Daily is leading with. It says, police arrest suspect with fake dollar note vehicle in Yobe State. And that's on page 5 of that paper.
Now to the Daily Independent. Nigeria at heart of Africa's solar revolution as imports surge 60%. That starts on the front page, continues on page 29.
All right, then let's look at some money matters now. This will be from the Business NG. It says 5 years, 45 NGX companies, no dividend. It says manufacturers fume as government reintroduces 4% FOB fee on import. And that's on page 2 of that paper. All right, everyone. So those are the headlines on the pages of newspapers this morning. Let's now bring in our guests. Leading story for the day and quite concerning is the derailment. So this would be from This Nigeria and Standard Times that led with derailment. Abuja Kaduna train services suspended indefinitely. 6 injured as passengers scramble for safety. Outrage over halt of rail corridor. Fresh safety fears persist. Iyobosa, how would you review this?
Yeah, I saw the story yesterday. I'm sure that was the first time the such incident was happening. But I must also say here that true derailment is not peculiar to Nigeria. We've seen it happening, even in some advanced country. But one thing I noticed yesterday is the immediate response by the security agencies. Who responded to the issue swiftly and moved to the to the scene of the incident and making sure that passengers were safe. And thereafter, the rescue team began. But I think what the federal government need to do, especially the NRC need to do, is to put mechanisms in place and make sure that such incident never happen again. Once we have good what they call now coach, that are very good, that are up to standard, I'm sure we will not experience such thing again. So my suggestion to the federal government is that yes, such thing happen once in a while, not just in Nigeria, but maybe outside the country, in some advanced country. But there must be a measure that should be put in place to ensure that such thing never happen, especially when we have huge insecurity across the country. Imagine if the military or the security agencies, did not respond immediately yesterday. One could have imagined what would have happened to the passengers, especially when it happened in the forest, not in town. I think it's between Kubwa and Kaduna, as that something happened, and that's where you have a lot of insurgent insecurity in that part of the country. So kudos to the security agencies in the way they responded to the issue yesterday.
Okay, now let me come to the casualty figures. We're talking about it, earlier on, and no, certified numbers. How would you look at that? A bit of incompetence there. What would you make of that?
Well, to me, I think some of my family members were to travel yesterday. And when I asked my wife, did you book for the 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock? She said, no, that she's going for 3 o'clock train. So as I went back home, was trying to pick them to the station, and I saw that breaking news. It's quite unfortunate that we're having this several derailment. This is not the first time. This is not the second time. This is not the third time. This is the fourth time. And I think we need to put a kind of a question mark on the integrity of the rail lines. Of course, I was told by an insider that a train was coming in from Kaduna down to Idu, but like the driver was not told, so he had to really trying to maneuver to park so that he will allow the other guy pass, the other train to pass. That problem happened. Now this is the first time you see coaches being overrun. They tumbled, and then there was this fear. What would have happened? But we thank God there was no loss of lives.
Yes.
But I think it is quite important and very necessary for the integrity of those rails to be reviewed. Because when you continue to have derailments from 2022 to, among around 3 years.
We cannot even forget that of 2022.
Well, 2022 was an attack.
Yeah.
It was a security attack, like he had just said, by the insurgents. Yesterday, I can tell you, I had several calls. Oh, I hope your wife was... But at the end of the day, people simply cancelled all this stuff, and then they hit the road. What one is trying to say is that for how long there is a problem, and it is necessary for both the security and the NRC to see what they can do. The competence of the NRC in running the Abuja-Kaduna rail services is being questioned. So I'm very happy they've come out to suspend it, because so many things will just have to be done. If yesterday my family had gone there and something happened, you
won't be here this morning. Yeah.
Do you understand? Yeah. So what one is saying here is that, thank God, the Kaduna Abuja Expressway, this insecurity was a problem. It's no longer there. So you can travel with a kind of your heart's being where it's supposed to be. So most of those passengers simply rotate and then they travel by road. But like my colleague said, government must do something. The NRC must work to ensure, to review the integrity of those rail lines. I have this fear that there is certain things happening, and something must just be done.
Very quickly, before we move on to probably another headline, the mention of your is it insider information now about what happened.
Yes.
Now, should we be expecting the NRC to give us, certain individuals who were responsible, for letting, whoever was driving the plane know at certain points, this is what you need to do, this is where you... For the fact that there was a failure there, should there be individuals singled out for punishments because of that? Because in our country, we see a lot of incidents and people do not go punished, for it. They continue with their job like it's business as usual.
Well, you are a Nigerian, and we know what is it to live in Nigeria? We're talking of competence. You just talk about competence. Are we sure we had the right people in place that are competently mandated to do their job? That's another issue.
You see,
and the driver, excuse me, and those who will be driving it. I mean, there are so many things along the line. You see, when a system is gamed to favor certain people, to certain personal interests, you have what you're having. But at the end of the day, because there's no consequence, we'll just move on as if nothing has happened.
Yeah, talking about consequence, you were going to intervene. Yeah. Now, the NRC is saying that they are not aware the number of passengers they had on board. I mean, what could be more irresponsible?
In fact, I was coming to that.
Okay.
I think this is something the federal government should pay more attention to, because if you look at the cost of traveling these days, by air, by road, because of the insecurity, so people consider train as one of the best means of traveling these days, and that's why they witness huge patronage from passengers. But if you look at the racket that is going on in their stations, for example, you want to buy a ticket from here to Warri, you go online, you will discover that all the seats are fully booked already. What the staff, what they do is to book the ticket for themselves, so that even if you want to buy, rather than buy at the normal rate, the official rate, for example, if here from Itakpe to Warri is about 15,000 naira, for example, they will book all the tickets, and by the time you want to buy, they will be selling it to you for about 30,000-40,000 naira. I think that is the racket that is going on in the train station that the authority has not been able to fist. So it's a huge racket. There's huge corruption there. Apart from the integrity that my friend was just talking about, there's huge corruptions in the NRC. And you can't have that kind of system, transportation system, and you have corruptions, wrapped around it. Then it will be very difficult to begin to assert the integrity of the NRC. I think that is the problem, Like somebody said, if you don't punish bad behavior, there's no guarantee that such thing will not happen again. I think what the federal government needs to do is to thoroughly investigate what happened yesterday.
Right.
Thoroughly reassess the NRC, including the management team. And if they are not satisfied with their performance, for God's sake, there's no need keeping them. Fire them and get competent hands to run that NRC, because it's the most viable means of traveling these days if we fix that system very well.
All right, then. I think we've handled that, used almost half of our time to dwell on that, and I hope that they will take action and publish their investigation. It doesn't take a lifetime for them to do that.
Yeah.
Let's go to Observer's Time. It says, Judge slams counsel to suspected terror leader al-Banawi, others for absence in court, issues final warning to defendants and counsel.
Well,
how would you review this?
Very interesting that we, keep having. How can we be having a terror leader, having such an issue?
Suspected.
Well,
okay. Maybe I want to say something here. You see, the system, it seems some certain people have tried to reach out across the system to ensure they game those who are attempting to deal with the issue of terrorists. Remember, UAE, one time they brought out names of Nigerians, they prosecuted them, and they sent them to court. And the issue is, we that are suffering from it, we've not been able to successfully prosecute a terrorist and send him to jail. It tells you, it reveals to you that there are certain things that are happening. I want to commend the DSS, at least headed by Mr. Ajayi, Toyin Ajayi. He's been trying his best. And why I really, really commend him, he's not somebody that can go out and be talking. We've had so much of talks. And the second thing he has done in the last 1 year, he's been the head of the DSS, is to ensure that he pursues those things aggressively. But unfortunately, the lawyers, the court system, has not been able to successfully pull through the arraignment or the jailing of one of the terrorists. And that is quite unfortunate. I'm very happy with the manner the judge came out to slam at the lawyers for not doing their job. Remember, this man that we're trying to prosecute, the U.S. gave him a $5 million bounty on the man. And when the SS and the other security agency worked and they brought him, why should we not go about to do our job?
Yep.
You see, the whole interest is about personal interest.
Well,
And lawyers can also frustrate.
Yeah, that's what I was coming
Do you
to.
understand?
Yeah,
so the frustration of the lawyers, I think we should look at that, and that the judges should not allow all these technical issues, all lawyers trying to frustrate using some kind of nuances. They shouldn't stop that. I'm happy they gave them a September deadline. It must go on. We must jail them.
But just to make a point of observation, I remember the release by the Office of the Attorney General recently. You know, there was an indication that some terrorists had been successfully been prosecuted and jailed. They came up with a figure about 200-something terrorists that have been prosecuted in Federal High Court or State High Court across the country, and they have been sent to jail. So it might not be correct to say that the federal government has not been able to prosecute terrorism cases. Some of them have been prosecuted, some of them are serving their terms in several prisons across the country. But I think what we should be talking about here is our judicial legal system. You know, that is so frustrating, like I said, so frustrating, so slow. And sometimes you are prosecuting the terrorists, sometimes it takes about 3, 4, 4 years. What evidence do you need? If somebody is brought before a competent court of law and there are evidence so suggests that the guy was fully involved in such a criminal act, so why will you delay the trial for about 3, 4 months or 3 years, if you like? So, but I think rather than blaming the security who are arrested, I think we should also blame the legal system that is so ineffective, you know. And that's why people keep on talking about the need for us to, you know, review our judicial system. It's not just the terrorists. There are thousands of awaiting trial across the country, you know. Some people who have spent almost about 3, 4, 10 years awaiting trial in several prisons across the country. It is not because of the security are not doing their job. It is not because the lawyers are not doing their job. But it is because our legal system is very, very slow. And perhaps they are also overwhelmed with the number of cases that they are handling. Imagine a court, you know, handling almost about 40 cases, you know. So how do you expect such a judge to cope with the system?
So let's assume now September comes and we still have an incident like this. What do you think now the judges should do going forward?
And like I said, I think the prosecutor should also do a diligent work, you know. Sometimes the challenges comes from those who are prosecuted them. They don't do a diligent work, and by the time you charge them to court, because they could not do the thorough job, they keep on asking for adjournment, you know. And when a lawyer or a prosecutor is asking for adjournment, I mean, there's little or nothing the judge, the judge could do. So it's also part of this. So the point I'm making is that we should take a holistic approach, you know, to, you know, looking at what is wrong with our legal system, what is wrong with our judicial system, how can we make it more effective? Do we need to set up a special court, you know, that will be dealing with terrorism issues, you know, like somebody also suggested, do we need to have a special court that will be dealing with corruption issues? So these are things that the new CJN should look at, and not just the CJN, all the stakeholders, including the Office of the Attorney General. Let them look at it critically so that we can fast track our legal system. Because, like somebody said, the danger of not punishing bad behavior is that you are also encouraging more people to commit crime. And when there are more crimes in our society, then the country is worse for it.
All right, then. Yeah, so I think we should go to the next paper now.
Yep.
This one, we have it on leadership, Nigerian News Direct, Daily Asset, New National Star. It's just so occurring there. It says varsity lecturers protest across campuses. 240 colleagues die yearly over poor living conditions. That's according to Fulafia, that's Federal University of Lafia. The ASO chairman there is speaking.
And from ASO, we've heard we could see the mother of all protests. What do you make of that?
Well, for me, it's about disagreement over the 2009 agreement. This thing happened 2009, and up to today, there are still issues. So it's an inherited problem. And for ASU coming out yesterday, even Tuesday, to give a signal that, hey, you must do something, or we stop working. Now, the whole idea is that how do we go about resolving that matter? Now, you have to look at the context under which ASU operates, and also look at the existing realities in the Nigerian system. One is not saying that ASU members are treated fairly. No. If you compare the salaries of Nigerian lecturers with that of their counterpart abroad, you discover that, hey, we're just playing here. So they have a right, and it's all about welfare. But again, let me tell you why this issue will not just end like that.
Okay.
Because we've had a private university. We have all private university. Now, when those people that are supposed to resolve the problem have all their children in those private universities.
Or abroad.
Or abroad. Most of them are abroad. You know, there are oppressive lines because we run a system in Nigeria that is of the oppressor class. When you have money, you send your children abroad to school. Those people that have less, they send their children to the private ones here. And if I tell you the humongous sum of money they pay every year, you will discover that the public universities will be relegated. It's only people that don't have the capital, they don't have the financial muscle to either send their children abroad or to the private universities in Nigeria that finally end up in the public universities. Now, because of that, who are those people that are supposed to push government to do something? National Assembly. Are they doing what they are supposed to do? No. They can't question anything because they have their children all abroad. They have their family all abroad.
So in that sense,
do they have faith in the Nigerian system? No. Yeah. Very few of them may have, but most of them don't. They say, don't listen to what someone says. See what he does. And if we look at what the members of National Assembly are doing, you will be convinced beyond all reasonable doubt that their interest is not in Nigeria, their interest is not in anything. It's just how they can acquire financial muscle to wrestle in the next elections.
But is it that
and that is why we cannot resolve this problem.
Yes.
Yes.
You see, the point we need to make here is that the state of our education, goes beyond the allowances, salaries that as people are asking of. As I speak to you today, our education stinks. Not at the primary level, secondary level, tertiary level. Yes, I'm telling you because I'm an insider. I can give you a bit of what is happening there. So much so that recently, when the Nigerian Guild of Educators Executive met in Owerri, we spent almost the whole day discussing the state of our education, because whether we like it or not, our education system determines, everything in our societies. If we have a very corrupt system, if we have a very education system that is not working, it affects everybody, and that is why the Nigerian Guild of Educators call on the federal government to pay more attention to education. It's very key, critical to our survival as a nation. If you go to university these days, there are no lecturers. Most of the lecturers are now consultants, do so many things because they are not well paid. Imagine a lecturer, for example, who is allocated about 6 courses to teach in a semester. A lecturer, they allocate 6 courses for you to teach in a semester.
And sometimes, in the case of postgraduates, they even have other universities they are teaching.
Exactly. So
and the students' ratio to lecturers.
Yes. How do you cope? You have a university. You have thousands of students, and you have few lecturers. Even to the extent there are some in some universities now, the postgraduate students, there are no professors to supervise them. So you end up having an assistant lecturer or lecturer 1, lecturer 2 supervising the PhD students. How do you determine that? So I think the point I'm making is that the federal government is not paying attention to the educational, to the system we have in education today.
But they would defend with NEL fund.
That's rubbish. Look, the NEL fund is also a cotton pie for people to siphon public funds. If you want to pay more attention to students, rather than giving them load, why don't you reduce their school fees? But and in that case, it will be a direct approach. So the point I'm making is that I think the ASU should also come up with some argument. It's not just about salaries. It's not just about allowances. But I'm saying that the entire educational system, the entire university system is very bad now. that if we don't take time in the next few years, the kind of students, the kind of graduates that will be producing from universities would not be able to cope with
I think we're there already.
what we want in our society.
What I wanted to add, beside the corruption is talking, let's look at the orientation. You see, we are living in a country where we've enthroned this idea of you must make it. Someone's status is viewed from his financial capacity. A lady from a poor family wants to own an iPhone of 1.5 million, when even her parent cannot even fit well.
Why did we use a lady?
No,
a man,
a man to
a car,
you and anybody.
being.
I know you people that are gender. You know, what I'm
Yes.
saying is that ladies have this way of, you know, show off, you know, you want to do something even when you don't have the capacity. Of course, you use what you have to get what you want. That is what in Nigeria, and that's why everywhere you find yourself, you make it an oil block. If you are a lecturer, make it an oil block. If you are, like he said, if you are working in NRC, you allocate certain seats for yourself.
So oil
that
is
you
no
sell.
longer in the pipeline.
Oil is no longer the pipeline. It is what you have. If you don't use what you have, you die in poverty. And in a society where people strive to make it at all costs, everything goes into the pot.
But
I mean, continue education. Now, coming to the issue of welfare, you cannot dismiss the idea of welfare. If you tell me that a professor in Nigeria will simply earn 300,000, 400,000, you now ask, how much do you use that money? Can it cater for your needs? And most of those people in public university have their children in private university.
Yeah, and
I'm
that's
very
what I was
happy
going
my
to talk
friend
about
here
you.
is an adjunct lecturer in University of Abuja. So he knows more about all the rough.
Before we go into that, I've seen, some individuals comment that ASU is being too headstrong. ASU is being unrealistic, with all of these backlogs from 2009. This government was not the government, back then. What would you make of such comments about ASU being unrealistic of its demands to this current administration?
Well, those who are accusing ASU of being strong-headed or not being, not considering so many things before they embark on strike, do not know what is at stake. Yes, I agree. I disagree with some methods, some strategies that ASU leaders are adopting. But to a very large extent, I think the only language government understand, have come to realize that, is strike. Unless you confront them, they might not see any reason why they must engage you in a very robust conversation, dialogue, so that they can resolve issues. So the only language that the federal government understands is that, we are going on strike. If you don't pay us salaries, we'll do these things. And we've seen that working in the oil sector, in the medical sector, in several sectors. So the point I'm making is that I think rather than just responding to issues, the federal government, not just the federal government, all the stakeholders need to sit down and see, look, how do we rescue our educational system from states of rottenness that we have in our society today? We must do that because, like I said, education is critical to the survival of the country, of the entire country. I mean, look at what is happening in our society today. In some other part of the country, when there are economic challenges, when there are security challenges, the government, fall back to lecturers in the universities for a research, for problem solving, for solution. And we've seen that happening in other parts of the country. When there's economic challenges, they fall back to the lecturers. We have this economic crisis. Can we research, find out what is responsible, and how do we deal with the issues? So the lecturers in some universities across the world are the intellectual. They are the engine of government. They think for the government. They provide solutions to challenge it, whether security, economy, politics, and everything. But in Nigeria, what do we have? Do we have that kind of system? When there are economic challenges, we fall back to the lecturers in universities. Look, can you help us find a solution to these things? And by the time they carry out a research, that solution will pass on to the federal government for them to fix the problem. And that's how universities work across the country. So we must fix our own system to be able to respond to security, economic, and political challenges in our country.
All right. He talks about strike being the only thing, the government to listen.
That's what it seems to understand.
Yeah, but we've seen situations where they go on strike and months go on, and the federal, government doesn't, budge until probably a whole lot of commotion happens. We've seen Nigerian students stay at home for long on the federal
Up to
level
8
and the
months.
state level. So realistically, do we have a government now that would listen or that listens?
Yes,
to
we
its
have a
people?
government that will listen.
Okay.
But that government cannot listen much as we want it to listen because another arm is not performing its job. I'm talking of the legislative arm, both at the federal and at the state.
Now that you're talking
If-
about our lawmakers,
Yes.
you understand that in 2019 they had a bill they threw out that was restricting them from patronizing medical attention treatment abroad. But then in June this year, they brought it back, and it is to stop them, public office holders, from patronizing private health services, medical treatment, as well as preventing their children from going abroad. So would that work when they finally have their children in public schools? Do you think that they will not have the attention there? Because
You see, that is a photo ops. In Kaduna, we had Governor Nasir.
I was coming to that, but thankfully you
And
mentioned that.
he took one of his children to the public school.
Yeah.
Oh, it was
Fanfare.
camera were everywhere. Oh, a governor's son is in a public school. What happened thereafter? Nothing happened. He had to withdraw him. He had to withdraw the guy and then go to the normal. What I'm trying to say is that the Nigerian system is the problem we have, and we need to change it.
and this is not
But
even a thing of
It's
administration.
not something of administration. It's about the people. And when we are talking of we, the people, we are talking of the National Assembly. We are talking of the State Assembly because they are our true representative. They will tell you, oh, I represent this constituency and this what must be done. And if they are able to do that, but the issue is that they are also compromised. They are also as guilty as those that are supposed to do the job. So what one is trying to say here is that it's a long walk to getting the answers. But it's
Now
also a
that you
short
spoke
walk.
about legislators and the roles they play,
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the viral clip of the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello,
Exactly.
telling them that you did
They have
not
to
get,
sign-
you
yeah.
have
Exactly.
to, don't even debate whether you understand or not,
Or you
say
don't sit
yes.
down. He was just telling them, hey, sit down.
Yeah.
And they all sat down on the floor.
Uh-huh.
It tells you that most of these state houses of assembly are mere extension parlors of governors. That it is what he wants that he gets. It's even here at the federal level, you have some kind of a semblance. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Not every, there are some people that will make noise, oh, the president, no, we don't agree. But at the state level, you dare not.
Thank you,
Because
sir.
if you do that,
I want to
because if you do that, you won't come back in the next election.
I want to ask one final question from my end now. It's from the lecturer's angle.
Yeah.
We hear that abroad now, for example, like you mentioned, the lecturers are involved in solving problems, in their communities, those in the engineering, those in economies, in agriculture, and all of that. Now, do we have that? Because that's a claim that our lecturers do not solve problems, professors do not solve problems, they do not bring up ideas to demand very huge pays.
Now, first of all, let me respond to the issue whether we have a government that is ready to respond to educational challenges we have in our country today. My answer is that, yeah, the president appeared to be listening, but of recent, the man is busy churning out, signing bills for more universities, more polytechnic, more college of educations across the country, where the existing ones are not well equipped, to face the challenges. Yeah, you asked about whether our professors, our scholars are better equipped, to provide solutions to our issues. Yes, but that notwithstanding, we must also state here that there are some lecturers who are also very dubious in nature. I give you an example. There were some lecturers, I won't mention the university, the particular universities, who were given funds by the TED fund for research. And, if you are given the money for research, at the end of the day, you come back, you retire it, and you ensure that your outcome is published in international journals and all that. Do you know most of the lecturers, almost about 49 of them, refused or failed to retire the money that was given to them for research and publications. And because of that now, that has now denied more lecturers for applying for funds. And TEFON are saying, look, we can't give you grant for
Like
research.
your colleagues.
Because your colleagues, about 49 of them who collected such grant, up to now, 2 years or 3 years after, had failed to retire such amount of money. So the point I'm making is that it's both sides. What are we talking about here? Corruption.
Yeah.
If a lecturer is given a grant for research and publication, and you end up using it to marry more wives or buy more cars, then there's a problem. So if we have a very strong system that is working, some of these things will be eliminated. For example, if a lecturer is giving money, is giving a grant for research, and after about 2 years, nothing happened, then there should be a process of sanctioning such lecturers. It's a process of inviting ICPC to investigate such lecturers. If the money is not properly utilized, then let the law takes its course. But when we have a system, even telephone is also giving grant. They are also involved in how do I call it now? I'm giving you 100,000. Out of that 100,000, please can you give me 40,000 out of it and make use of 60,000 naira? So when you have a telephone or an institution that is also involved in that kind of dirty deeds, then we find it very difficult, to have a holistic, solution to this problem. So your question is, do we have lecturers that can, provide solutions to our issues? My answer is yes, but we must fix the system. Okay. The system must be working. If we don't have a system that is not working, then it's going to be very difficult to employ all these resources.
I mean, this is just from the Federal University of Lafia, and ASU is threatening the mother of all strikes. That means what we are going to see never before.
Well, just a bit of intervention.
Yes.
You said the president is busy churning bills, university here, university here. Yeah, you may have an issue with that, but there are some places that this university are justified. And I said this particularly to what is happening in Kaduna, where I come from. We have the Federal University of Applied Sciences in Kachia. It's a place that you saw about, the zone itself is about 4.5 or to 5 million people. And for them not to have a university, then I think there's an issue. So for the federal government under President Bola Ahmed to do that, to me, is commendable. I'm not saying this just in part of, there are also other places that have been left unattended to.
Let me just give
you
one example.
So for the government to do what they did,
let me just give one example.
I give kudos.
There's a federal
maybe after him.
Yes, yeah. Let me just give you an example. There's a federal university that has about less than 750 students. I mean, you have about 1,955 staff, academic staff. 1,955 academic staff. I'm not talking about no academic staff. Meanwhile, the students you have there are less than 800. Is that not a wasteful venture?
Yeah.
You don't have students. The existing one can accommodate more students if you strengthen them. Yes. So why would you have a universities of less than 750 staff, students? Then you have about 190,000, 1,900 something academic staff. And by the time you add non-academic staff, you are talking about almost about 3,000.
So you have more staff than you have students.
You have more staff than students.
Meanwhile,
I'm talking about some universities in northern part of the country.
Okay, thank
you. So
the
point I'm making is that if you strengthen the existing one, with better infrastructures, they can accommodate more students rather than creating bureaucratic system across the country or the name of setting up university, polytechnic, and college of education. Okay. I don't subscribe to that. For example, now University of Abuja is the center of the center of power. If you create more infrastructures, build more hostels, accommodation for students, employ more lecturers, they can accommodate, they can double the students that they have now.
Yes, right. Thank you very much. And I think that's a good place to thank you for joining us on midweek to review our newspaper headlines. Thank you, Iyobosa. Thank you, Simon Reef. And do have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right.